true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support Truth, Compassion, and Hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
There's a whirlwind of a motor, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation.
Voter guide and political website that offers the Huey Report, a powerful tool to transform our politics and culture for the better. He joins us right now to talk about the landscape politically, given the fact that the RNC convention is wrapping up, and the former president of the United States will be speaking to the nation through the RNC. Of course, he is now the official Republican nominee. We're talking about Donald Trump. And look, Craig, thank you for being on. I've got to get right to the first question, which is still being talked about. What was your reaction or response the day you saw the attempted assassination carried out against the former president, Donald Trump, in Butler, Pennsylvania?
Well, like everyone who saw it, I was shocked. And my wife and we started to pray. We were watching it in real time, so we saw it as it happened. And I have to tell you, this was not something I expected, but I knew something like this could happen. I knew that the probability was quite great. And so it was a lot of prayer. And when we saw him stand up, and he could actually move and talk and think, we just praised God at that point. And then when he did the fist and be able to say, fight, 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 we knew that this was going to change the direction of the election, that it showed a man that, by a miracle of God, was able to survive. But instead of retreating and running, he was there to fight for you and me, fight for America.
And in the wake of that, of course, the RNC has gone on to stress unity, unifying the party, as well as having a unifying outreach to all Americans. What does that look like, in your opinion, based on what you've seen at the RNC?
Well, what I have seen from other Republican conventions, Kelly, is a division. You always have 10, 20, 30% of the Republican Party fighting with each other, not wanting to support the candidate. If they do support the candidate they didn't want, it's half-hearted support. I saw a convention and a reaction from the average person, from even those people who, are not really pro-Trump, just saying, we're going to do something. We're going to vote for Donald Trump. And that is key. This election is about getting out the vote. This election is who can get more people to the polls. And so that unity is something that's going to create an army of people who are going to go door to door, who are going to text, who are going to phone, who are going to be able to make sure that those people who want to see a change in America don't sit at home, but actually do vote.
What do you think about his selection of J.D. Vance to serve as vice president. Now J.D. Vance becoming the vice presidential nominee. Vance, as you know, is someone who didn't like Trump in the beginning, but as we've heard the former president so famously say, he didn't like me, but now and that he's met me, he loves me. And I still chuckle at that. But the fact of the matter is, J.D. Vance is a young man. So now you're talking about perhaps what would look like an intergenerational ticket, because you have the youth and you have the old guard, so to speak, working together and possibly serving together this great nation, America, if they become elected.
I take it in two different ways. The first is an excitement, because whether Harris is running as vice president and he's debating her, or if she goes on and replaces Joe Biden, whoever that VP candidate is of the Democrats, they won't have a chance. He is so good in being articulate, dynamic, just so articulate in being able to tell the truth and make it understandable. So I'm excited about the fact that he knows how to mobilize people and how to be able to do what's necessary to help Trump win the election. I do have reservations about him. Just personally, I'm a little disappointed Trump didn't pick an evangelical Christian that, from the White House of the past, it was filled with prayer, Bible study from all kinds of groups. Hopefully that's going to continue in his next administration, but that's outside of what Vance would do.
Yeah, okay, so to that point then, is it, in all likelihood, do you think that evangelicals will remain supportive of Donald Trump and his campaign to get back into the Oval Office?
Well, Kelly, the evangelical support for Trump in the last election was 85% of them voted for Donald Trump. And that's even when you had some people who were evangelicals who sat on the sideline, who didn't go out and vote. You still had 85%. Now, in the most recent polling that's been going on, it varies within several degrees, but you're still finding this massive support because they've seen the war on Christianity that's going on. They've seen the attacks of Israel that are happening. They understand that they have to have a change, and that whether it's Biden or Harris or Newsom or Michelle Obama, whoever it might be, they're not going to provide the safety net of protecting Christian rights, promoting Christian First Amendment protection, and so the evangelicals are going to be warriors. And really, when you get down to it, the key swing states, Trump lost those by less than 100,000 votes on the key swing states. There were 6.9 million evangelicals who did not vote in the last presidential election. That's a lot. That's just in the swing states. I think the pastors from the pulpit, I think that Christians are going to volunteer to go door to door. I think they're going to send to their text list, to their email list, videos. Some of the most amazing videos are now available that were broadcast from the RNC. One was the brother of a woman that was killed by an illegal alien. And he presented the case for stopping this madness, what's going on across the border, and then he gave a testimony for Jesus Christ. That's going to go viral, and people are going to be sending it out to everybody in their home Bible study, to the youth group, to Christians that they know. I think the evangelicals are going to stand behind the Trump-Vance team.
To your point, there is a blog that's been posted by polling and data expert Ryan Burge.
Yes, right.
Talking about Joe Biden's approval rating across various religious groups. not just Christians, but other religious groups in America, and stating that it might spell trouble for the incumbent ahead of November's elections. In fact, in his recent Substack, there are graphs about religion published in July. And Burge observes that Biden is losing ground with a whole bunch of groups, as I'm quoting from this article, that he needs to, quote, win a second term, but he's losing that support along Christian lines, Protestants, Black Protestants, non-white evangelicals, as the most critical religious demographics for the Biden campaign. How destructive is this for his potential re-election if he's still the nominee for the Democrat Party?
It is a major problem because those made up his victory in the last election. So you're talking about religious groups that he has lost. They're not going to go vote. They're not going to volunteer. They're not going to help him with donations. They are going to sit it out, and a few of them might vote for RFK or Cornell or Stein or one of the other independent candidates, but they're not going to vote. The nuns, the fastest growing group in America are the nuns, not the ladies in the black dresses, but the nuns who say, I am not a Christian, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Catholic, I'm not an evangelical, not a Hindu, I'm nothing. This is the young people, the 20s and 30s, and this massive group, and they were voting close to 90% for Joe Biden in the last election. Well, that's just crumbled. But see, here's the thing. Biden's support, because of the Israel-Gaza conflict, because of so many different issues going on, his coalitions, wherever he looks, are crumbling, falling apart. I've never seen anything like it. It's a nightmare scenario. My inside contacts into the highest levels of the campaign inner circles in the Democratic Party, you have a depressed group of people who have been in tears, who have been depressed, and just have almost given up of any hope of winning this election. Yes.
So what do you anticipate for the DNC, the convention that takes place in Chicago?
So I've been saying in the past different percentages of how much I thought Joe Biden would be replaced. My percentage right now is 75% chance he will not be the Democratic nominee, and so that leaves open other ones. The consensus would be Harris would automatically take it. That is the likely scenario. So I give that about, if he has a replacement, I would say it's 55% Harris. But, Newsom is like, he knows something and he's confident about something. You take a look at
but you look at
the
the
one
state
that
of
I think is most
California.
likely that could beat Trump.
Screwed up.
And I know they recognize this. I know that the donors know this. I know that their base would just respond to it, but so would people that they need to bring in that Trump's taking away, and that is Michelle Obama. And so that to me, that would be the August surprise that would shake politics like you can't believe. I mean, really, Kelly, when you get down to it, people would, when I was talking about
Obama's
this, would
been
say
pulling
that
the strings
sounds so
all
fictional.
along.
But who could write the script of what's happened to Donald Trump?
Yeah.
And who can write the script of what's happened to the Democratic Party in the last 6 months?
Turbulent, crazy times right now. But Craig, I thank you for bringing some sanity to all of this conversation and some clarity to it. Look, I've always asked this: what is your hope for America? The division, the politics notwithstanding.
My goal, my prayer is that the next president of the United States will be able to consolidate not power, but the people to work together, to be able to have people love our nation, to be able to want to see progress and not have the division that we've seen in the last 4 years, and to be a uniter of people. And really, that's going to require prayer. It's going to require Pastor Jack Hibbs and the Tennessee Mayor Governor Lee of Tennessee has called for a whole month of July prayer and repentance. So the Christians have their part in this unity, and that is pray, fast, and let's see God move in a mighty way. But yes, I want to see America move ahead, and we can't do it when we have the divisions we have, when we have families broken by division, people in the workplace broken by division, the politics right now. We need a healing in this land.
Appreciate you, Craig. Craig Huey. Make sure you check him out. He's the founder of CraigHuey.com. Thank you so much for joining us on America's Hope. My thanks to Craig Huey. We're coming back with more in just a moment.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance.
Yeah,
That's
really.
when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to watch America's Hope. That's our show for tonight, and as we move forward, many people will be asking the question, who will I choose to run this country as the next president and vice president of the United States? That is something that only you can decide. Pray, vote, and stand. Until next time, America, keep hope alive. Good night. God bless.
Support Harris under the Biden-Harris
You
campaign.
wish to go
May be a
down
sign
the
that he's
same
prepared to hand over his
road
$250 million in
to
campaign
debt
funds to
for the
Harris.
next 4 years.
Can her presidential campaign inherit Biden's fundraising account? Campaign funds expert Dan McMillan says it's a non-issue.
And there's a lot made of the fact that if Harris becomes the top of the ticket, then she directly takes the cash that's on hand in the campaign funds. But the fact is, it's really a non-issue because if they nominate another candidate other than Harris, that money can immediately be transferred to the DNC or to a super PAC allied with the party.
Commissioners on the Federal Election Commission are split along party lines on whether Harris could actually get that money. Sean Cooksey, a Republican who is the FEC chairman, said in recent interviews that Harris may not be able to access Biden's funds. In a post on X, Cooksey explained the applicable federal campaign finance rule. According to the rule, a candidate's funds have to be returned to the donors, or the donors have to redesignate their funds for another election. The Biden-Harris campaign committee has filed paperwork to transfer their committee and funds to Harris. Cooksey told the Washington Post that Biden handing over his committee to someone else is unprecedented under current campaign finance law. But Dara Lindenbaum, an FEC commissioner appointed by Biden, offered the opposite view. She says that because Harris was already on the Biden-Harris campaign committee's registration statement, the money was hers. Lindenbaum told the New York Times, if Kamala Harris is the Democratic presidential nominee, she gets to use all the money in the account. Campaign fund expert Dan McMillan says the funds can't be directly transferred to Harris, but it doesn't matter.
On the other hand, I think it's true that whoever the candidate is, the Democratic donor class is very eager to defeat Donald Trump, and plenty of money is going to flow in.
Harris already has the support of several key Democrat donors, such as Open Society Foundation chairman Alex Soros. But Harris will have to convince other big donors like billionaire businessman Vinod Khosla, who's calling for an open convention. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today on his way to Washington. He's set to meet with President Biden and VP Harris and address Congress. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more from the State Department.
Just before heading to Washington on Monday morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel and the U.S. will remain inseparable allies regardless of who's elected president in November. This comes after President Biden announced that he will not seek re-election.
I will seek to anchor the bipartisan support that is so important for Israel. And I will tell my friends on both sides of the aisle that regardless who the American people choose as their next president, Israel remains America's indispensable and strong ally in the Middle East. In this time of war and uncertainty, it's important that Israel's enemies know that America and Israel stand together.
Netanyahu thanked President Biden for his support for Israel throughout his political career and said that they'll discuss working on the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza, defeating the Hamas terrorist group, and confronting Iran and its proxies. Netanyahu is scheduled to meet with President Biden and Vice President Harris on Tuesday. He will then address Congress on Wednesday, making him the first world leader to address a joint session of Congress 4 times. As Netanyahu faces a war back home, the U.S. does not expect the fact that President Biden will not seek re-election to impact a future ceasefire deal and the release of hostages.
Ultimately, we believe a ceasefire deal is in the interest of the government of Israel. It's in the interest of the Palestinian people. That's why it ought to be agreed to, and we'll continue to push for it as hard as we can.
Netanyahu's last speech to Congress was back in 2015, where he criticized the now defunct Iran nuclear deal. Speaking of which, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Friday that Iran is now on the cusp of developing nuclear weapons. He blamed it on the disbarment of the Iran nuclear deal.
Where we are now is not in a good place. Iran, because the nuclear agreement was thrown out, instead of being at least a year away from having the breakout capacity of producing fissile material for a nuclear weapon, is now probably 1 or 2 weeks away from doing that.
Critics have said that the U.S. relaxing Iranian sanctions has contributed to this, such as allowing Iraq to import energy from Iran, and the U.S. unfreezing $6 billion in Iranian assets in exchange for the release of U.S. prisoners back in September. Reporting from the Department of State, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Back, have we?
Israeli forces report striking multiple targets in Yemen. This comes after the Houthi terrorist group claimed responsibility for a deadly attack on Tel Aviv last week. NTD's Jason Perry has the latest.
On Friday, the Iran-backed Houthi terrorist group in Yemen claimed responsibility for a drone attack in Israel, which killed 1 person and injured 18, according to Israel's military. The very next day, Israeli forces prepared their fighter jets and flew to Yemen while Israel's prime minister sat in the operations center. The Israel Defense Forces, or the IDF, said they conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including the Al Hudaydah port, where giant flames blazed and smoke billowed into the sky. The IDF said this port was the main supply route for the Houthis to receive Iranian weapons, including the Iranian attack drone the Houthis used to attack Tel Aviv on Friday. Israeli forces also reported striking dual-use infrastructure used for terrorist activities, including energy infrastructure. Israel said the strikes in Yemen were in self-defense, proportionate, and necessary. Residents in Yemen gave their reactions.
It will not deter us and will not deter the Yemeni people, and I believe that the next Yemeni response will be even more painful in response to these strikes.
No matter how much they strike, we will always support the Palestinian cause. We will not relent, we will not falter, we will not retreat no matter how much they strike.
Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, the IDF on Monday reported striking several terror targets and killing numerous terrorists. The IDF also reported significant terrorist activity and rocket fire coming from a designated humanitarian area in the southern Gaza Strip. The Israeli military then adjusted the humanitarian area and once again called for residents to evacuate.
This is getting old. There's no one asking about us. We have God. Hopefully our intentions will be pure. May God be pleased with us and protect us from this ordeal.
Also on Monday, the IDF reported that based on intelligence, 2 hostages held in the Gaza Strip have died in captivity. 76-year-old Alex Danzig and 35-year-old Yegev Bukhshtab. Israeli authorities are currently investigating the circumstances surrounding their deaths. Jason Berry, NTD News.
Coming up, an exit and a path forward. How are voters reacting to President Biden's decision to drop out of the 2024 race? Sam Wong was right outside the White House to gather insights from America.